Yep. Luke,
Sure.
what about you?
Yeah, just had to double check something real quick, but that's all sorted.
Okay. Let's see. Let's record, and I'm gonna go through the points that I'm gonna have. But before that, I will say a few things. Okay, I'm gonna start the recording now. Right. So, hey there, everyone. Thanks for joining. Firstly, in this evening or noon or whatever time zone you are in. Thanks for taking the time to be part of this AMA. And by the way, like for those that still don't know what an AMA stands for, it stands for Ask Me Anything. So in this case, ask us anything, because I'm not the only one here, and I do. We do represent the whole Mindnight team. So the format of this AMA will be quite straightforward. I will take 10 to 15 minutes to have an awkward monologue and go through some subjects and present the current state of certain concerns that we have, features, issues, and systems, and share our thoughts about them and what we thought about doing about them. Afterwards, we will go straight into answering questions and transition it from a monologue to an open discussion, where you will be able to ask questions, give suggestions about particular topics, and give you my unfiltered thoughts and answers on them. As a huge disclaimer, though, it is needless to say that everything we discussed here is to be considered a work in progress. And none of my statements and apparent gameplay decisions are not in any way final, right? So before going into it, I wanted to say one more thing. I wanted to apologize that we were unable to update the game as often as we would have liked, and I wanted to let you know that we're looking at changing that by looking at how we can maximize revenue and allocate more time to develop updates in our free time. Right. So going straight into the points that I mentioned in the pinned post right now. Firstly, I wanted to sort of like talk a bit about our main concerns, our biggest concerns about the game right now, and the things that we have observed through obviously playing the game and through the data that we have and stuff like that. So the first one is about metagaming driven harassment. So as some metagaming rules are to be considered cheating in a way, but some are not. When I mention metagaming driven harassment, I refer to the players that want to play around a specific metagame rule with some particular specifics to it, that are more or less sorry about that, that are more or less agreed by a portion of the community and forces others to play so and harasses them if they don't. This is a problem that we are very keen in solving one way or another, but this is the motivator for new players and players that do not want to engage in the metagame, but they are forced to, harassed, and then even reported if they don't, right? And by saying this, I'm in no way saying that metagaming is wrong. Metagaming should not be a thing, and we are here. Our motivation is to eradicate metagaming. We don't want that, and we won't do that, and we are not seeking that. There are some specific certain rules that we do want to address because we consider them cheating because they're affecting directly the balance of the game. But some of them are fine and they're valid playstyles. But in no way this should be a reason to harass or have players that are rude towards other players. Right. The next one is general toxicity. By the way, I'm going to go through all the points, right? And then at the end, we're going to answer the questions, right? So if you have any questions, it's better for you to maybe hold them off for now and ask them when I'm over with a point. because right now, obviously, I won't be able to look at the questions.
I'm also kind of writing a few down, at least a
Okay,
few.
that would be great. Thanks. Right. Second point, general toxicity. So from the start, when we made the game, we were aware that the nature of the game will make some players in the future to have a toxic behavior, and that is why we also sprinkled some tips and tricks in the loading screens about that. But we never imagined that it will be, that big of a deal. So obviously we were wrong and naive. Toxicity is one of the top reasons why we're getting fewer and fewer new players each day. And because of that, the game cannot grow and produce enough for a stable and continuous development cycle. Right. Point 3, the updates and how often we are actually updating the game. So because we're still working on this in our free time, we are quite unable to say precisely how often we will update the game. We want to be transparent, though, with you and manage expectations as well as possible. We wanted to express these concerns so that you can help us decide and prioritize on what we should do. What should be the things that we should work on next, because we have limited time and we want to address things that you also consider very important. Right. So these are the 3 points from our list of biggest concerns so far. And now I'll go and try to shoot like a statement and a thought about each other point, from general systems, the metagaming, new features that we would like to do, and last but not least, some known bugs and issues that we have right now. And then we want to talk about known bugs and issues because some of you might think it's a feature where when in fact it's a bug. So we wanted to mention these to you as well. Right. So about the general systems right now, the first one on the list is the matchmaking system. So as we have already mentioned in the reputation system Steam post, we would like to improve the matchmaking system by taking into account the reputation points. Obviously, the reputation does not do that right now, and it just accumulates some points and they're not even displayed in the game. We have chosen to do this reputation points in stages so that we can see how players are actually interacting with the system, and then make incremental changes and improvements and then expand on it in time. So more so about the matchmaking system, as the game will grow, hopefully, and we will want to reactivate a more strict level-based matchmaking, where more experienced players will have lower chances to meet new players. Last but not least, about the matchmaking system, due to the advanced rules that the current metagame presents, and due to the fact that not all players want to engage in the metagame, we are thinking of adding an option before going into the game to choose your playstyle, basically. If you want to play more casually or if you want to play by the metagame rules, both of them should be fine. Similar to how other games let you choose a role maybe before going to the game, and so on. So this is just something that we have on the table right now. It's up for discussion, and I'd love your thoughts about it and how we can improve the matchmaking system, as generally speaking. Second, the reporting system. So we would also obviously like to improve the reporting system as well, especially when it comes to the game throwing reason of reporting. We will firstly try to adjust the scores for each reason and try to give definitions in the game for a better understanding on what the reasons represent and why you should report someone because of them. So some of you maybe don't know how the reporting system works. As you have seen, maybe in the reporting system, you have some reasons, and each reason has, let's say, a score that you can give out to a player. And then when a particular score is reached, that specific player will be banned for some time. Each ban will incrementally, increase the time of the ban, and that's pretty much it. Right. What's next? Bot behavior and auto voting. So the bot's behavior has been on the list for quite a while now because we have tested it and it worked just fine. And for some of you, it doesn't. Some bots, sometimes they're very readable, and because of that, it's not considered random. So I wanted to assure you that this is not something that we wanted. If they are malfunctioning sometimes, probably, and we are trying to pinpoint the issue there, and we would like them to obviously act more human, and we would like to improve them to even say some things sometimes and have particular decisions that are more likely to be interpreted as human, not as bots. And obviously about auto voting as well, that's also an issue that we would like to solve a way or another, where players are trying to disconnect in order to confirm their role. Sometimes the bots, again, malfunction, and they are quite readable in that matter. So we would like to change that as well. Right. Fourth point, leaderboards. Straightforward. I did mention this in the past, but I'm going to mention it again. The leaderboards were never something that we seen as something that is competitive, and we didn't want them, even if they are called leaderboards, literally leaderboards, and they are framed as being competition. We didn't want them like that. So right now we're thinking of renaming the leaderboard to just global stats. As in the future, we, at some point we'll introduce matchmaking, ranked matchmaking, and that should probably have a leaderboard of its own. We do not consider it a leaderboard per se, because right now we don't have a particular way to calculate a player's skill. So as you probably know, the leaderboard right now just has a bunch of filters, and the top player does not necessarily, he is a skilled player, but we don't necessarily think that that's the best way to calculate skill in this game, right? Just by looking at wins and losses, and the number of games you played. Right. Progression system. So for the progression system, we want a level cap. This is one solution, and we would like to introduce more rewards as we go on. And the second option that we would like to do with the progression is even introduce sort of like infinite leveling, where that also reflects how much have you spent in the game and how good are you at the game. And that's pretty much it right now. We have not increased the level cap in the past because it's really a matter of content as well. We thought that we should not increase the level cap in the progression if we don't have content to reward the players with. Right, next one, vote history. We just posted some new history, developed sort of like expanded vote history mockups in the dev sharing channel, where we would like to give everyone a glimpse into how the votes can be presented in a more detailed way, showing each proposal, who proposed it, who are the players in the proposal, who accepted it, who refused it, and so on. And together with that, we would like to introduce a chat system, a window system, where all these systems, the chat, the vote history, and the forthcoming notepad would have redraggable and resizable functions where you can move them on the screen and put them wherever you want. Right. 7, the economy. I'm going to be straightforward and short here. We are looking at and we are experimenting at adjusting the coin ratio and how much things cost, so that right now it seems like we have more coins generated than they are being spent in some areas, and probably that's because we don't, shove skins in the face of everyone and stuff like that. We don't want to do that. We don't want to force anyone to pay for anything, but we would like to have this economy system feel more fair for everyone. Right, the last point at the general systems is the endgame screen, where we would like to make some changes regarding two things. One, regarding showing players that are in a party, that were in a party in that game. So this way you will know who teamed up in that specific game, if they teamed up. And maybe even add new reporting reason, such as teaming up specifically, so that we can look at multiple people, not just a single guy that is cheating, and the cheating is sort of like broad right now. Right, so this is the general systems that we wanted to talk about. One thing that I wanted to mention before going forward to the metagaming issues are the known bugs and issues. I'm going to go ahead to these points because it's really important to say this right now. So one, I already mentioned that the bots are malfunctioning, and we know that bots right now we consider them a bug, right? They're not behaving as they should. And the second one, as we have introduced the reputation system right now in the end game screen, you can see a thumbs up and a thumbs down button. We decided for this, we've detailed why we wanted to add this reputation system, but I also wanted to remind everyone that the reporting system is still there. You can report players, and you can do so by going under the thumbs down menu. So in order to report someone, you need to press the thumbs down button and then you report him. But the known bug here is that right now it seems like sometimes you cannot report more than one player. So that is not something that we wish to do. That's a bug. You should still be able to report all players if you want to in a particular game at the end screen. Right. Metagaming. This is going to be a tough one. So there are a couple of rules, right? As I mentioned in the beginning, some rules we do consider them cheating and we would like to change them directly. And we would like to negotiate and find out what are the best ways to solve them. And some of them are not considered cheating. And that's sort of like the way it works, right, in a game. I'm gonna be again as brief as possible because we want to go into questions as fast as possible. There are primarily two metagame types: is the mechanical metagame and the emergent metagame. The mechanical metagame is obviously, straightforward. It's self-explanatory. It's a set of systems and mechanics created specifically by us, the developers, to wrap it around the main gameplay. The second one, the emergent metagame, and this is, the way you, the players, mostly use the term, the metagame being strategies that transcend the rules and systems of a game by, emerging from them via player interaction. So right now, we would like to shake up the meta a bit, basically, and this is something that happens in a lot of games. There are some things that at some point become quite stale for a big number of people, which is why part of the community maybe becomes inactive, or maybe doesn't want to play the game, or they want to play the game in a safe space where they can continue to play that specific metagame. Right. So metagaming. The first one is the hacker protocols, and the hacker protocols in specific, out of all of them, we consider them cheating. So the set of rules, this is a set of rules, by the way, for those of you that don't know, that give an advantage to the hackers on top of the current advantage that they already have. So in Mindnight, hackers already have an advantage. They win more games. So hacker protocols, we do consider them cheating because they unbalance the game. They unbalance the way we had the game in the beginning. And this balance is quite shaken up, and we have seen data as in games are won more than 60% of the time by hackers, even 80% in some times. And that is very problematic because agents are put in a very disadvantageous moment. So we would like to change this, as this unbalances the game greatly. Greater it would be make a fair and enjoyable gameplay experience for agents, obviously, and for everyone. Obviously, each time you're a hacker, you are very happy that this protocol exists, that the hacker protocol exists, but you are quite annoyed if you're an agent. So right now, we don't know what are the best solutions at solving this specific hacker protocol, but we would like to be open and hear your suggestions and what do you think it should be done around this. Right. Next one. The next one is the Node 1 protocol, where a lot of people, we do not consider this necessarily cheating, but again, is something that we would like to change just to shake up the metagame a bit. And the shake up, basically, just to give you a little bit more context. In a game, there are primarily 4 phases in a metagame. The first phase is experimentation, where everyone experiments with new features, new mechanics, and so on. Phase 2 is stabilization, where very efficient strategies would have been found and become oftenly used by everyone. And then the meta is solved. Phase 3, where it becomes quite stale, and maybe right now new players don't know it, so they can't really learn it because we don't have a way to teach them that. And this is again something that we are open, and we would like to teach new players some metagame rules. And the fourth and final phase is the shakeup, where you reset the meta, basically. Now, we don't want to change the game or something. We don't want to shake up the metagame necessarily if it's not wanted. But we do want to offer an environment where all players can apply their playstyles without being forced into doing one thing over another. That's why I mentioned earlier, maybe we do separate matchmaking queues for different playstyles. Right. So Node 1 meta, I personally don't consider cheating. It's mainly something that people want to do because they want to have less assumptions. Because Mindnight, on top of everything, it's a game of assumptions, and people want to have fewer and fewer assumptions when playing the game. Now, that's pretty much it about these two protocols. The other thing is honor duels, right? So this is the next point right now. Honor duels are a thing that we do not consider cheating. I do personally consider them a bit weird because as a game designer, I do not know exactly how to translate it to a game mechanic, right? So when I'm looking at hacker protocols and UI questions, I know how to solve them by design. I know how maybe I could go around them and have them embedded in the game mechanic and taught to players, or remove them altogether if we want to. But honor duels are the thing that I don't know what to say, right? Probably honor duels could be something that can be embedded in the mechanics if it's wanted by everyone somehow, where you literally duel someone somehow and you fight over it with some mechanics. But it's up for discussion. Now, the next one is UI questions, which is the most, let's say, sometimes most reliable way of metagaming, and the one that we do consider that it's our fault that they became real. So we've made some recent changes to the badges, as you probably seen, we have made the agent and hacker badges different. And this basically, we did that because a lot of people harassed and forced other players and became rude over, telling them how many pixels are there, how do you spell, what do you have there, Hacker Collective or NTF, and that became a problem from our point of view. So we removed that. There are still a couple of UI related metagame issues, like asking what the text is, what kind of typos you have, if we have any more typos there, and so on. So we would like to solve them immediately, as quickly as possible. Right. Now, last but not least, this is not necessarily a metagame rule. My point is just something that embedded into the community in time. It's about the hammer, where the hammer sometimes, well, not sometimes, actually quite often, people go to hammer so that they can do something. They pass so that the hammer would be at someone that you trust more, and so on. This is something that we do not necessarily see a problem, just something that we think it should change a bit, maybe, because we would like the game to be a little bit more about about discussing the game, not necessarily ignoring each other's thoughts and opinions and role plays. Obviously, the votes are still there. The votes can still be read and analyzed by everyone, but sometimes some games feel very mechanical and very artificial, just by the fact that not a lot of people discuss sometimes things, and they just go through it very fast. So this is not something that we would like to. We don't want to necessarily remove the hammer, or have 10 hammer have 10 proposals before a hammer would kick in. We don't necessarily know how to change that, but if you have any ideas on how we can make the game a little bit more about talking, this is at least what we would like, and this is sort of like our vision about it. But we would love to hear about your vision as well about the game and how it should develop. Right. Going fast forward through the new features, because I went above 15 minutes right now. Notepad feature, straightforward and self-explanatory. We would like to add a notepad feature on the client side. This would not be shared among players. This is all about you and what you have locally. You can type in there whatever you want and save information, especially in those 8-player games where you have so much information sometimes. Second, we're working on a scripted tutorial for new players, where we would also add a little bit lore as well and story into it, and you would go through a training of as an agent, and then be recruited as a hacker. And this would be a tutorial that would teach new players not just the main gameplay mechanics, but even some metagame rules if we would like to. Third new feature that we would like to have at some point is blocking players. And if you do not like someone in particular and you don't want to match make with them anymore, you should be able to block them and not be able to play with them anymore. This is something that came up quite often, but this is also something that we don't want to rush, because it would affect the matchmaking queues a lot right now because of the low number of players in the queue. Right. Localization support is self-explanatory here, but we will also like to get it. At some point, we would like to introduce something like, let's see if we have a big enough community in a specific country and have a matchmaking system where it's that specific language only, and we'll see if that would be something interesting in the future. Right, that's all. Last but not least, mobile is coming. The mobile version, it is still in the works, and we want to make it as good as possible. And it's taking so much because if we want to update the game, but we also want to have a mobile version, we would need to do them in parallel. And each time we change something in the main game, we will need to change something in the mobile version as well. So that's not ideal, but it's something that we need to go around it. Right, this is everything. I'm sorry for my long monologue, and let's go into questions mode, so I can breathe a bit.
I can breathe as well now. I've been saving a lot of questions, screenshotting them.
Really, I've just made bullet points.
Oh no, I literally screenshotted them so I can see who asked the question as well. I just use
fair enough.
snipping tool and then paste it on a little app I have that I just paste it all on. So.
Okay, should I scroll, or would you guys want to question me on behalf of some players and I would answer?
I could probably read from the thing and give credit to the person who asked as well.
Sure.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sure. Oh, by the way, before going, for the people that are present here, again, thanks for joining. Fuji, and is one of the moderators, and he's one of the No Moon members right now because he's doing skins. So clap for him in silence. And Luke here is one of us at No Moon that wanted to help out Mindnight, and he is doing skins, and he is planning something there, right, Luke, where maybe some community members would be able to upload skins to a website and have some sort of let's say validation system where people would be able to vote skins and stuff like that. So clap for Luke as well for his initiative, and maybe that will happen someday.
Yeah, still got to work on designing that because after some of these questions, I'm also having to think about those as well.
Right.
Like, as well as make some, such as making events for it so that people can make skins potentially thematically.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So let's go into questions, I suppose. Fuji, Luke, if you want to go and read out some questions, I'm fine with that. If not, I can go through. I'm going to scroll and go through some as well.
I think the first questions that were asked were mainly concerning, I guess, just questions in general were mostly about Hammer and the changes that are about it. So maybe just from what I've understood, there are no definite changes made to it. At least we're mainly still collecting ideas on what to do.
Yeah, I mean, everything we have discussed so far about some changes and stuff like that, discussion, and they are in no way, final. And yeah. So I don't know specifically about Hammer. As I said earlier, I personally think that games where, let's say, sometimes the outcome of a game is quite unreliable. It's, we make a lot of assumptions, and sometimes in a game it's pretty obvious who is who because it comes out of the discussions that you have. And because of that, sometimes you don't need to go to Hammer, right? At least for some players, right? At least for some playstyles. Some people do prefer to always go to Hammer, and that's completely valid and correct. That's absolutely no problem. But I think primarily in Mindnight, why people conflicts is because of these differences in playstyle. Is because they want to play in a certain way, and each time they go to you, they're gonna have 5 other players with 5 other playstyles that they will play with. So that's why they clash. That's why they fight. That's why sometimes we become super angry and we rage quit. And this is the nature of the game. Unfortunately, we basically shot ourselves with the foot in the foot when making the game. But that's what it is, and we need to go around it now. And that's why we're talking with all of you guys right now, so that we can find the best solutions to try to, not make everyone happy, but at least try to make Mindnight a place where conflict should not be that often met. Does that make sense to you, Fuji and Luke, at least? Does that make sense to you guys in the chat?
Yeah, sure.
Not much I can say, considering I'm still unable to actually play the game, but I do what I can. I mean, I've made myself useful with getting all these messages, and because I have timestamps, I also know who sent what when. So I can go to the earlier questions.
We need to fix your network connectivity first.
Yeah.
Right. Next question.
I got the first one I noted down was: is there any goal of improving the harsh learning curve that tends to turn away many beginners? And that's from Joe the person.
Yeah, right. He posted that.
Yeah. So that's mainly related to tutorial. That's one, and second about trying to separate playstyles and trying to have people that prefer to play in a certain way stay away from new players, right? And to make a system where new players have an environment where they can learn the game without having to go straight into a game session with 5 players of level 30 that are super metagame fans, right? And they are like using metagame rules and they know them all, and the new player doesn't, right? So right now I don't know what should be the plans there, and I'd love to hear out your thoughts about it. But I would like to have new players somewhere in some sort of a safe space where they can learn the game without having pressure of the meta game, because the game at the beginning, when you start the game, it's already too much for them, right? And the tutorial proposes to solve exactly that. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. What was the name of the guy?
Joe the person.
Joe the person. I hope that answers your question, Joe the person.
Okay, next one I have is from Sanguine. Wouldn't segmenting the community, segment the community, and rather wouldn't it dampen the ability of the community to expand?
Yeah, things with split queues.
Yep.
There have been bad experiences.
So the matchmaking at some point did split the community because of the levels. We didn't have a dynamic matchmaking system. It was like you're gonna matchmake with 1 to 5 level players, and you had like 2-hour long queues. This is one. The second thing, yes, by separating playstyles, we would separate part of the community, but we would rather prefer to have a challenge in which we have more players come into the game, so a bigger community as a whole, but separate in playstyles, than have one big divided community that fights all the time about how the game should be played. So I think on the long run, we would prefer the community to be bigger, to have new players come in, have the game grow, and us be able to update the game more often than have a community that fights all quite often of how the game plays. Yeah.
By the way, I think Hannes and Marcel just joined, and I don't think they can talk.
They should. I mean, everyone.
You should be. They should be.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, Marcel.
Okay, there he is.
Hey, sorry, just joined. So
No problem.
just listening.
So if you guys wanna add something to the questions and stuff like that, feel free.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, next question.
Right, so next one is from Team Trees, aka Bebo. Will custom games still count to global stats? I think we mentioned that was a plan we weren't going to do, but I wasn't entirely sure. As in, we weren't going to have it count to global stats.
Yeah, I think that was what I heard as well.
Yeah, I think, and Marcel, correct me if I'm wrong, chatted about this quite a lot, and custom games at some point they were planned into not be affected by the leaderboards be affected by custom games, and we were thinking of doing a separate leaderboard for that. But right now, I think because my main point at the beginning was leaderboards should probably be renamed to global stats, maybe, and they shouldn't necessarily measure skill. I would say that custom games probably shouldn't count in that leaderboard, but it's up for discussion right now. Okay, next question.
All right, it's again from Bibo. I see the chat's reacting to how I said it. It's one that I also saw pop up elsewhere from another user. Will we have skin-specific content tests? And another question that was very similar, where this is if we'll be having more community contests, and that one was from Ramsey.
I'd love to have more community contests, and I think, Luke, maybe you should do more of these yourself. And yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I was exactly going to say. I was going to say
and
that.
not just skin contests. I think we should have more community events, and I'd love to hear ideas of what kind of community events we should have.
Yeah.
So before going forward, I wanted to answer two questions that are here right now. I see them. So one is from Element: are there going to be separate leaderboards for mainframe and standard? If we were to do leaderboards as in measuring skill, then yes, at some point, if we put mainframe into the queue, the matchmaking queue, then yes, they should have separate leaderboards. And the second question was from Fat Guy: wouldn't it be a better strategy to make a point system out of the game instead of ranking system? For example, winning +3 points, losing -2 points. So that's basically a ranking. It's a pseudo elo system, right? So we wanted to add the ranking system at some point, but right now, because of the number of players that are in the game and the number of players that are active playing the game, there wouldn't be enough data to have an elo system rank players properly, because they wouldn't have enough players to play with in the same elo range, right? We would probably be able to experiment with, but that's gonna put an even more strain on the matchmaking system, because the ranking system, more than anything, it should also put players sort of like in the same skill level and have them matchmake with each other. If we were to put them just as if, it's a leaderboard, right? And it wouldn't count for the matchmaking, obviously a lot of people would come and say, why doesn't this thing count to the matchmaking, right? But putting it just as a leaderboard would be something that we could consider, and I don't see a problem to it. But the matchmaking comes into question as well in this discussion. Right.
Okay, I got an immediate question. I thought it'd be quick to answer. What are your main priorities for next updates?
That's a very good question, and the answer to this question is basically we do not necessarily know. Obviously, like, the bugs and issues are high priority right now, but the rest of the features that we have on the plate right now and the rest of the things that we would like to change are totally up for discussion, and we will prioritize them together with you, the community. That's why this is the primary reason why we're doing this NAA, because afterwards I will send out a form to everyone where they will be able to vote and tell us what should be our priority in the next update. Okay.
Hey.
Fuji, do you have any other questions saved?
I have a lot of extra
Yeah.
questions saved.
And another one that I think would be relatively easy is, how do you get the veteran role on Discord? I don't remember who posted that. It's
It's a frequently asked question.
yeah,
in the
it's
end.
just stick around for a long time, create something
Community
for the
content.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, or as soon as the Patreon is up and running again, donate to Patreon.
Yep, that's right.
And I think that's about all of the criteria for the veteran role.
Delta asked, what will you add next to the Mindnight shop? Well, to the Mindnight shop, we can't add a lot of things. We can only add skins, emojis, and that's pretty much it. Maybe. Sure. At some point, someone suggested the pet system. Maybe that would be something that we will add in the shop, but we don't know yet. That's not confirmed.
Yeah, that's why I'm still thinking. I'm trying to think about the purpose they would serve, if they would just be purely visual, or if we'd give them some sort of function as well, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe
That's-
some pets that can detect hackers, right?
Yeah. It's also got me thinking. That ended up leading me to other thoughts of potentially how to create extra modes and things like that.
Yeah.
Came to a few ideas came to mind there.
So
we're going to have
another-
dog fights in Mindnight, or is that
Yeah.
what you're implying?
Yeah, probably.
But
So another
someone
question,
mentioning as a joke, someone mentioned it as a joke DDoSing, but I thought, hey, that could work. That could be a potential new concept for a new mode. Like, no, literally,
Yeah,
you're able to disable and just take down. I realize that actually sounds not as I intended.
So the next question we have, I'm gonna go ahead and ignore. You have mentioned other games. What other genre? You have mentioned other games. What other genres are you interested in exploring? More social deduction or others? So we are working on other games. One specifically that is here on Discord is Smash Cards, which is a party game, but it's more like a silly party game, but it's not social deduction. So we are looking in other genres, and we're also working for quite a while right now on an action RPG, like a big game. But we can't say that much about it. But if this question also goes into what other maybe game modes we would like to add to Mindnight. So we would like to add, like, actually there are like a lot of ideas that came from you guys, from the community, of new game modes. But we also have lots of ideas of new game modes for the game. But though we are still thinking about them, and we would like to sort of like figure out which should be the game modes that are distinct enough to actually add them to the game. Okay. Next question, Fuji. Let's put it. We have about 15 minutes left.
The DLC soundtrack.
DLC sound.
It'll be
Sasha is-
updated as soon as Sasha is done with it.
Yeah.
Sasha is pretty busy right now, but he is remaking all of this. He's remaking all tracks, and he's gonna, the DLC will be updated when all the tracks will be updated as well. So stick around, and all of the sounds and music in the game will be reworked soon.
Okay, I'm just looking for, since you said we only have 15 minutes, I'm going to try and prioritize some
Fat Guy
questions.
asks, will you ever make a DLC game mode, like a paid game mode, you mean? If you refer to a paid game mode, probably not, no.
Okay, come on. I need to pick something. Okay, this one we kind of talked about, so we could go further on it. Blue Hail asked, not sure if someone has asked this question, but do you have any ideas or plans of adding new game modes? I would assume not right now.
We just talked about that right now.
Yeah.
What's the most popular way people find your game? So most people find the game through Steam, and Steam is not really helping because of that, because we're not making the big bucks for them. But we recently emailed each other, and we've got some new update visibility rounds that sort of at the next update we will be able to appear in the recent updates section on Steam. So that is the most valuable thing that can happen to us. Social media does nothing, because social media is mostly about us interacting with you and trying to have you engage with us. And the second way that people tend to sort of like come back to the game and have new players is by emailing and email lists. But we have a very small email list, and we would like to use it when we will have a new game out, because it doesn't make sense to email you to play Mindnight because you're already playing Mindnight.
I got a good question from Bibo. Oh god, I'm sorry. How is duels not cheating? Players build trust between each other by always following it, therefore identifying each other, playing multiple matches in a row, meeting again, using duels between each other reliably. Then they easily confirm two agents and blindly trust each other. In reality, it's cheat trust.
So that's a very good point, and I'd love to hear out suggestions. But before sort of like, assuming that we will change it or we can change it, I don't know exactly how, though, because people go to matchmaking from matchmaking to matchmaking, and they will interact with each other, and unless that dual mechanic would be embedded in the game somehow, I don't see how else we could control it, right? So yeah, that's a fair point. That's a good point. I'd love to hear out more thoughts and suggestions about it, though.
I think the whole concept of duels are, well, weird because it
Yeah.
requires trust in a game about lying. And
It's kind of the same thing with the honor thing, isn't it? It's like
it's just that, because why would you do that? Because from what I've understood, it is you challenge somebody to a duel in a two-man node. You go into it, and basically hackers have to quote-unquote hack. And what hacker in his right mind would do that?
Yeah,
Then
it's
you could
very
easily just
childish in a way, right? And some people will get offended and will kill me for saying this. But for those of you that don't know, yes, it's basically what Fuji said. Those are a concept that is done between two players in which they are both forced to quote unquote alpha. And the player who doesn't alpha is called out by the end of the game is for being dishonorable, and sometimes would escalate to harassment and even reporting and banning, which is that's not a reportable offense if I don't do what you're telling me to do. And duels prove two agents for who trust the duel. And yes, that is not necessarily cheating in a game from my point of view, because you can just ignore it and that's it. Thanks, bye. But yes, as you go on and you play with the same players in the matchmaking queue, that sort of like becomes an issue in the matchmaking queue. But for custom games, I see myself using that in custom games, even though it's quite weird and stupid at the level. It's like calling out someone in school and say like, yeah, you won't do what I tell you. If you don't do this, you're stupid.
yeah.
Okay, hacker, you are supposed to be honest. Are you a hacker? That's how it feels to me. It does.
Yeah,
feel
exactly.
so
And it's
ridiculous.
But a lot of people do not agree with us, and I totally understand that. And that's sort of like a valid playstyle for you as a Mindnight player. That's totally fine, and I don't condemn it, but it should not affect the quality of life of other players from my point of view. And that's also applied to pretty much all metagaming rules. Should not force anyone to use something if they don't know about it, and by saying, hey, new players, it's your job to learn the game, that's not really making a good point, because one, we are making a mistake because we are not teaching them something that it just took shape in time. And second, it's our fault again because we're matchmaking you with new players as level 30 players. But that's why we're here, to find solutions together. See, hear your thoughts about it.
Then another question that I heard, I think the person who asked it already left the session, and I don't remember what the name, but language specific servers was what they asked, I guess. And well, so that basically you get paired up with people, like Spanish people get queued up with other Spanish talking people,
Mm-hmm.
and that sort. And like 50% of the things that we're promising, they'll be implemented as soon as we have enough players.
Yeah. I mean, probably we will make a test with a country that it's playing the game quite much. Like from our data, for example, we have from South America, from Brazil specifically. So maybe we will firstly translate the game at some point in Portuguese and try to have a matchmaking system specifically for that region and try to promote the game in that specific region and see how it goes. And if that goes well, we're gonna incrementally add new languages in time. But that's a very ambitious plan, and it requires a lot of planning, and it requires a lot of promoting the game. Because if we make, let's say, Portuguese matchmaking queue, and it's you have only 10 players there, it just beats the point, right? So it needs to go hand in hand with a good promotional campaign there, which right now, obviously, because of budgeting, we can't really do efficiently. So before going to another question, I do have a few questions that I would like to answer. The one is, what type of rewards would the reputation system present each season? How long would each season be? To both questions, I will answer to we don't know yet. Rewards are quite limited because we don't have a lot of content to the game. But as we would add more things maybe to the marketplace into the game, maybe these things would become the rewards. I don't know what are these things. How long would each season be? I don't know. Also, the season discussion about reputation system is still something that is still on the table. Don't know if that's a thing or not yet. And the next question was, how will you counter players abusing the reputation system, avoiding friends over again, for example? So we will have players be able to vote each other just once. So if I vote Fuji, for example, and I give him a thumbs up right now, and I play with him again in the next game, I already have a thumbs up on him because I already voted for him as a thumbs up community member. But I can change that to a thumbs down if I want to, right? So if Fuji becomes evil over the side, right?
Yes, obviously.
There you go. I will go ahead and change my vote to that player. Right now, obviously, this doesn't work, and this doesn't show as it works like that way. It doesn't work like that. But for now, as I said, we just wanted to see how players interact with the reputation system first and see how it behaves and what kind of percentages we have. And in regards with this, we actually are very pleased with what we have seen so far. The reports are a little bit lower, which means you don't see the report button the first thing you go outside of a game. That's something that was a problem. If you end the match and you see 5-6 report buttons, obviously you will want to press them. It's a psychologically thing. It's a psychological thing. So yeah. Why did the Patreon go down and when it is coming back? So it went down because we didn't had time to maintain it. And that is the primary reason why it went down. But we made sure that everyone had the rewards from there, and they still have, the veteran role and so on. And yeah, that's why. And when it is coming back, it will come back later this month. It is still in the works. We are remaking it, and we are also gonna give more interesting rewards there that are related to merch and to things even in the game. Sort of like a subscription thing where you could pay $5 a month and you're gonna get this amount of coins maybe and stuff like that.
Also, I think I just remembered a question about the UI, about the removal of the NTF symbol, and why you couldn't just put it back and remove the NTF and keep the badge. Well, people are like, tell me what in the third row, fifth column, what color is that pixel?
Yeah,
And if you can't tell me, then you're a hacker.
And how many pixels are on the, let's say?
Yeah, in the 12th row. And it's just...
Well,
that
I
is
think
not how
I
you
have an
make-
idea how that could be adapted. Oh, God.
Because, so this is a question from Bo. Why not give hackers access to the agent UI then? Well, because we don't want that to be a reason of discussion. We want people to argue in the game and have a discussion about themselves, not about UI.
Delta, that's exactly what I was just about to say. You know, have the badges still there and have them identical in shape. That way, it doesn't matter which color it is. You can easily lie. If the badge looks red or green, it won't matter. You can lie and say you're green as well.
Okay,
because it's the exact same shape.
Do we have any other questions? Because I don't want to hold off everyone for too long. Ranked. Here we go again. So
Think he's kidding.
no, I don't think so. Well, a lot of people asking that, where is ranked possible and stuff like that, but ranking and ranked mode won't be possible with so few players. That's pretty much my answer. If we get more players, we're going to be able to have a ranked system. Can you go more into the hacker protocol? I don't feel it's cheating. It is cheating because it's unbalancing the game, and that's pretty much it. I don't know how to elaborate more on that. Hacker protocol straight up puts the hackers in a more advantageous position, and we would like the game to be more balanced. Oh my god, too many questions. Fuji, Luke, do you have any other thing that maybe I didn't answer from your list or something?
I saw a suggestion from Misanu. It's a game mode idea, but I did see some people upvoting it, so I thought it's worth a mention. Hackers only have to vote in this mode. Hackers only have to hack 2 nodes, but they must hack a specific node to win. And would end up forcing some players to come out of their shell immediately.
Yeah, got it. So let me give some, shed some light on something. So we have these problems, right? Like the hacker protocol. Players that use this protocol gain an unusual advantage. I already said that a few times. So the possible solutions that we are thinking about right now, but they're not final, so don't put words in my mouth. The first solution is a more radical solution. Obviously, make the hackers not know each other in the default game mode. So basically blind hackers. By making the hackers not know each other, the hacker protocol in part will be eliminated, thus solving the above, problems, like the unusual advantage. But this is a radical solution, and not everyone will like this solution. Not everyone will be like, yeah, sure, put the blind hacker in the default mode, we're fine with it. No, not everyone is fine with that. And that's very fair. I'm also quite like, I think that's not necessarily good because it will unbalance the game towards the agents, basically. And the second solution that we have about the hacker protocol is making the positions of the players in a game session displayed differently from player to player, thus making the players unable to read what does counterclockwise mean for each and one of them, right? So for me, Fuji will be in right top position, and for Luke, Fuji will be in the left bottom position, and we wouldn't know that between us. We wouldn't know who is next to me and who is next to you anymore. So the hacker protocol, in part at least, it will not work so efficiently. Probably it will be some sort of another rule that's gonna, appear out of that. But that's the more moderate type of solution for the hacker protocol that we have so far. But again, we don't know if that's something that we will do or not. Okay, it is realistic to assume that the game will grow to a level possible. I hope so. I hope so that we will, Steam will help us a bit and we will be able to promote the game a little bit more. And maybe even, in the future when we would maybe have a mobile version, the mobile version would help the game grow even more since it would be cross-platform, I think. Quick play ranked voice chat. Voice chat is my preferred way to play. Text is more toxic than voice chat. Right. Well, I do agree. I do also prefer voice chat, especially if it's a group that I know, and I like that even more. But we were hesitant to put the voice chat in the matchmaking queue because voice chat could also become quite toxic, and it's not that easy to moderate a voice chat public matchmaking queue. We will consider it maybe at some point. We haven't discussed for this quite a while, so I wouldn't bet this would be a top priority thing that we should do. Okay, will be mobile supported on iPhone. So the mobile game will probably be on Android first, but we hope we're gonna have iOS as well. Yeah, we'll see. We tend not to talk a lot about the mobile version because we still have a lot of work to do about that. Can player levels displayed mid-game? Showing this information would help the community properly identify new players, which may create a more healthy low-level experience. I agree, and maybe that would create a safer space for new players, but at the same time, that would also create an opportunity for people to bash new players, right?
Or even abuse the fact that they are new and
yeah.
Take advantage of the naivety. I just realized
as a general rule of thumb, what we have tried to do and what we're gonna still try to do is to make the game sessions and the discussions in the game sessions always be around proposals, votes, and nodes. If people start talking about anything else, like the UI, like the past game, like if you're a new player or if you have a specific skin, obviously this is quite counterintuitive, and I'm a little bit, a hypocrite right now. But this would be our ideal vision of the game in the matchmaking queue. In the custom game, obviously, that's a different thing because if you play with the same group, then you will know, I know Fuji, I know his playstyle, let's say, and in the next 10 games, I will be aware of how he plays the game, right? But in the matchmaking public game, in the public matchmaking games, you can't do that all the time, right? And it's very weird to do that. Okay. Still a lot of questions, and people probably will want to go to. What are your plans about extending the levels?
Originally, didn't we want to make? At first, we wanted to extend it in time for our most recent update, but ended up having to extend when we intended it.
Yeah, level 50 because we need to make a couple more skins to increase the level cap to level 50. So this is the plan right now. We have a few skins that are progression skills, and we will most likely increase the level cap to level 50 as soon as we can.
Yeah, that's also why the 2 skins I've made were not released this update. They're part of the progression system that we're intending to have. So,
Oh. I didn't know that.
yeah, I've got 2 skins already finished at the ready, but they're going to be part of the leveling.
Yeah, I knew that. I was wondering why they weren't in the game already. Okay, and now maybe the question, so Kane42 is satisfied. Why did trees lose gestures and when are they getting it back? Like I've
They
already
never
told
had-
you, that was a bug. They never had. It was never intended for them to have gestures. We messed something up, and that's why when usually another skin would have made an emote, the tree would just randomly turn into an NTF agent and do the emote as the NTF agent.
Yeah, I can
That
back
was-
Fuji on that. He did type that to you. Your question was answered a while ago, mate.
Yeah. So
even more to that, just to add the point that there are 2 types of skins, right? There are the dynamic movable gestures skins, which they have gestures, and we have the static skins, right? Which they're a little bit more weird and can't have you know, a lot of animations to them or none whatsoever, right? Like the pumpkin, like the tree, like the jukebox.
yeah, because the snowman, as you also asked, that is at least humanoid. A tree. How are you going to make a crying tree, or a laughing tree, a jumping tree?
A celebrating tree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So It's-
So
just not really. If you couldn't have like tree ants, like tree people, then maybe, but not just trees.
let's go a little bit more in some other questions. So there's a question here. What is your end goal for Mindnight? You commonly refer to the game as a work in progress. When will you consider it complete? So because we started Mindnight out of a pure game jam and it was basically a hunch, we didn't know how to, what to expect out of it, because yes, there were other games that did this, but I think so the social deduction genre is still considered quite a experimental genre. Our end goal for Mindnight is to at least make it a little bit bigger, right? That's one. So have more players. More players as in end goal, have it at least in a few languages, popular in a few regions, and when I say popular, that's very relative, but popular enough so that we can update the game regularly. That's all I can say. And it's a work in progress, and we refer to the game as a work in progress because it's still something that I don't think it has a particular space in the gaming industry. It's a niche game. It's still a niche genre, and I think we still need to be open to experiment with it. Basically, that's why I think we refer to it as a work in progress. Mindnight esports in the future, maybe? No, definitely not.
Also, no battle royale.
Yeah, no battle royale as well, and also snowman skin is not something that is always hacking.
Yeah.
A big question I have is about your plans for separating experienced players and newer players. This question from Lance. It can sometimes be frustrating as an experienced player to play against level 1s. Would you consider making 2 tabs for quick play, casual and competitive, where only players past a certain level can play in the competitive queue? That's exactly what I have in mind right now. That's also the only ideal solution that comes to my mind right now, to separate play styles, basically, because some people would prefer one over the other, but at the same time, and they're also going to have freedom to choose what they would like to play. Maybe today I don't want to play competitively with meta game rules and stuff like that. Maybe I just want a casual game. Yes, that's exactly what I would like to experiment with. I don't know if it's gonna work, and I don't think that's gonna be a good idea right now, immediately, because we have so many people, so few people online at the same time. So the peak daily, it's about 120, 150 maybe, and imagine new players coming in, going to casual queue, and they would have just a few other players to play with, and that would not be ideal. New players would come in, they would go on Steam, bad review the game because this game is shit, they have long queues. So it's really something that is really hard to balance. It's really hard to make everyone happy. So yeah. Are we going to get a way to telling the queue party join? Maybe that would be a thing. Yeah, I don't know. If we show them at the end of a game, that's fine. Maybe if we show them before the game, I don't think that's gonna be that good, because then you'll be able to harass these people that hey, you party up, you're definitely cheating, which it's not always the case, right? I used to play in party and I don't cheat. So some people definitely cheat, and that's also something that it's hard to address. Cheating, some experienced players are communicating outside of the game or something. And it's very hard to prove that. Yeah. I'm gonna ignore any question about snowmen being hackers all the time. Okay. I think we're sort of like out of questions right now. I feel that pretty much everyone got something out of it. Okay.
And they
Fuji,
got
look, what do you guys think? Do you think
I still think that the document that you showed me with the problems in it, I
Right.
still think that maybe obviously there will be a lot of shit in it, but I think it would be interesting to see some people genuinely try to solve the problems and give their thoughts on that.
Yeah, so you say we should maybe
Yeah,
share it?
maybe make a different copy of it and then share it,
Yeah.
and then sort out the things that are double and the things that are just jokes. And
Sure. I
Yeah.
can do that, no problem. Probably, yeah. People can suggest a lot of things in this document, but I will send the form as well later today or tomorrow for everyone to, suggestions, and based on the discussion that we had, right? You'll be able to make suggestions and even ask more questions and we'll be able to give answers to that in the future. So yeah, let me share something with all of you. And you'll be able to comment and suggest, and here you'll be able to see some let's say things that we have on our minds, and
you should also pin it probably.
yep, can do that. Can we set a requirement for a set amount of players in game? I'd rather play 6-man. Sure, that's a great idea. I'd love to do that. But that's gonna also split the queue, and we will have longer queues. Reposting because flooded by spam. Perfectly understand the issues with adding a competitive, especially with the current players. However, I personally feel a little pushed from Mindnight due to the lack of competitive aspect, just like new players are pushed out due to the learning curve. Do you have any plans to add a competitive aspect to the game leaderboard or anything at all in the future? I'd love to have some sort of competitive mode with seasons, maybe even tournaments. Maybe the leaderboard will not be a leaderboard anymore. As I said, maybe it becomes a global stats table, and maybe we could have tournaments and have rewards for these tournaments for the people that are really really into the competitive aspect of Mindnight, I would have no idea how would the tournaments be though, because it's really hard to find out the best way to do it.
I've been having some ideas for some gameplay changes, but I want to think them out a bit and note them
Yeah.
down a
Like
bit
if I
first, and
were
then talk with the
to,
team first, and then I think it might even help make a competitive aspect potentially work out better because of the development, as well as making it easier for new players. But got to think that through carefully. Can't splurt out what's immediately gone through your head. In my case, that is, I'm talking here, not talking about you. I'm
yeah,
talking about me here.
true. So it's definitely something. If I were to envision a tournament, it would have some gameplay changes to it, definitely. Right. I don't really know if this is something people experience, but I will say the achievement of getting 10 wins in a row, it ties cheating. It's only small though. Right. We had other achievements actually didn't ties to game throwing or cheating, and we removed them actually in the past. So yeah, I understand that, and maybe we're gonna make it secret or something. Science it is commonly agreed 7 balanced version with 5 and 6. Are you considering any changes related to it? We haven't considered any changes to that because in the future we may want to have 5 and 6 player matches as being the default ones for the matchmaking queues, and 7 8 player games only in the custom games. But that's also something that is not a final. We don't know if it's going to do that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, I think we're pretty much done here. I'm sorry if some of the questions were not answered. We're almost 1 hour and a half in. If you have any suggestions, put them into the game suggestion channel. If you have any other questions, put them into ask a dev question, and I will try to answer them in the next few days. Last but not least, yeah, I think we can wrap this up. I wanted to thank you all for being present here. Really um, it's really interesting that we had so many people coming in. So thanks, and have a good one.
Yeah. By the way, Bebo, I'm about to post that skins, a little preview of the skins I've made, and I've already gotten some new ideas for some more, but I want to make sure I talk with Marcel about custom animations and such a bit more, how making specialized timings would work and such. Would it be simple to implement or not? If it's not, it does kind of make things a bit difficult, but we do want to make it easier to kind of develop skins. All right, that's all for me from now. All from me for now.
Yep. Thanks a lot for joining in, guys. No problem. Let us know if this is something that you'd love to see a little bit often. And yeah, cheers. Thanks. Fuji, Luke, we're going to
Yeah.
go into the private space.
Yeah. Okay.